The Cursed Seat Part 2, the final part. Ada's chest tightened as the man's words echoed in her mind, each syllable digging deeper into her heart. She felt as if she were drowning in her own emptiness. The world around her blurred, her surroundings fading into a dull, lifeless grey. Her once vibrant thoughts, the ones that used to inspire her to chase her dreams, now felt foreign to her. The future she had been walking toward seemed impossible. She stumbled backward, struggling to breathe as her legs gave way beneath her. The pain in her chest intensified, gnawing at her soul. It was like a piece of her had been stolen, and with it, the essence of who she had been. The fiery ambition that once burned brightly inside her was extinguished, leaving nothing but ashes. Every step she had taken to get where she was, every plan she had made, felt pointless. Ada dropped to her knees, her hands pressed on the ground, as if grounding herself to reality would somehow pull her out of this nightmare. Her vision swam with tears. "Why?" she whispered, the word barely escaping her lips. "Why did you take it from me?" The man's shadow loomed over her, with voice colder than before. "Because you were the perfect vessel," he said. "You had everything I needed, your energy, your ambition. But now, you are just a shell." His words sliced through her like a glass, sharp and unforgiving. Ada could feel the rawness of her grief, the weight of loss crushing her. But deeper than that, she felt the weight of her failure. She had been chosen, but for what? To become a tool for someone else's gain? She had been a bright star, and now she was nothing. The fear, the anger, and the despair tangled inside her like a knot she couldn't untangle. She wanted to scream, to lash out at him, to reclaim what was taken from her. But deep down, she knew it was futile. It was gone, and no matter how hard she fought, it would never return. A hollow laugh bubbled from her chest. It sounded foreign, weak, as though the laughter wasn't even hers. The reality of the situation crashed over her like a wave, suffocating her. She was not just physically trapped, but mentally, emotionally shattered. She had lost herself, and now there was nothing left to hold on to. Ada sat there, her head heavy, her hands trembling. The world around her seemed to spin and blur as she tried to comprehend the devastation she felt. It was as if her whole life had been leading up to this point, this moment of loss, of emptiness. Everything she had worked for, everything she had dreamed of, now felt so far away, so unreachable. She closed her eyes, hoping to escape the suffocating weight of the moment, but all she could see were flashes of her past, her childhood, her hopes, her excitement for the future. They felt like distant memories now, like someone else's life. She had once been filled with so much promise, so much passion, but now there was nothing left. The echo of her former self was all that remained. A sharp pang of grief struck her chest, and she gasped, clutching at her heart. It was as if the world itself was mourning the loss with her, as if everything around her knew that she was no longer the person she had been. The buildings, the trees, even the earth seemed to be heavier. She could almost hear the whispers of her past self, the person she used to be, begging for a chance to come back. But it was too late. The man's words lingered in her mind, his cruel voice a constant reminder of the price she had to pay. "You are just a shell now." Those words wrapped around her, suffocating her from the inside. She had nothing left but the memories of a life that no longer belonged to her. Her fingers dug into the ground as if she would anchor herself to something, anything. But the more she tried, the more she felt herself slipping away. "Please," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "Let me have something. Anything." For a long moment, there was nothing but silence. Then, as if the universe was mocking her, the man's cold laughter drifted towards her from the shadow.
"You have nothing, Ada. Nothing but the echoes of your former glory."
The words hit her like a punch to the gut. She had reduced to nothing more than a faded memory of who she was. The weight of it crushed her, and she couldn't help but feel the tears well up in her eyes. Ada didn't remember how she made her way to the bus stop. Her mind was foggy, her steps uncertain, but somehow she ended up on a bus bound to her parents' house. The weight of her loss still pressed heavily on her chest, but But there was something else too. An aching need to be around people who loved her, people who could remind her of who she had been before the darkness swallowed her whole. The bus ride felt long, the hours stretching endlessly as the city passed by, the familiar buildings, the neighborhood she used to know so well, all felt distant, as if they belonged to another world. Her hands gripped to the seat tightly, her knuckles white as she tried to keep the tears at bay. She had no idea what she was going to say to her parents. How could she explain what had happened? How could she tell them about the man, about the seat, about the glory that had been stolen from her? What word could make sense of the impossible? She felt so small, so lost, and yet she couldn't keep the truth locked inside anymore. She needed them to know. By the time she arrived, the sun was starting to set, painting the sky with shades of orange and pink. Her parents' house, a modest house nestled in a quiet neighborhood, stood before like a haven. She hesitated for a moment at the front door, her hand hovering over the doorknob. What would they think of her? Would they understand? Taking a deep breath, Ada pushed open the door and stepped inside. The familiar scent of her mother's cooking, the soft hum of the radio in the background, it all felt like a dream, a memory of life she once had. Her mother was the first to see her, rushing over with concern. Ada, what's wrong, sweetheart? Ada opened her mouth, but no words came. The tears started to flow then, uncontrollably. As the weight of everything hit her, her mother wrapped her arms around her, holding her close. It was the first time in what felt like forever that Ada felt safe, even if just for a moment. When she finally pulled back, she looked at her mother and father, both of them standing there waiting for her to speak. Ada swallowed hard. Her throat tightened with emotion. I don't know how to explain this, but something happened. Ada sat at the kitchen table, her parents watching her with concern, their faces filled with worry. The dim glow of the kitchen light cast soft shadows on their familiar weathered face. Her mother had set a cup of tea in front of her, but Ada didn't touch it. Instead, she gripped the edge of the table, trying to steady herself to find the words she needed. For a moment, the house felt too small, too close, and yet impossibly distant. She longed for the comfort of her childhood, for the safety of her mother's embrace. But the truth of what had happened to her felt like an unsurmountable wall. How could she explain the unexplainable? How could she tell them about the man, the seat, the strange ritual that had taken everything from her? Her father, who had always been a man of few words, finally broke the silence. Ada, what is going on? His voice was gentle but firm. You have been gone for weeks. You've hardly called. And now this. Ada took a deep breath, her chest heavy. It's hard to explain. I sat on a bus, in a seat that, it wasn't just any seat. It was marked in a way I didn't understand. She paused, trying to find the right words. I think someone did something to it. Something dark. And now everything is different. I am not who I was before. I don't know how to explain it. I feel lost. Her mother's face softened. She reached out, gently placing her hand on Ada's. Sweetheart, we've always been here for you. You know that. But what are you saying? That a seat on a bus did this to you? Ada nodded, feeling a strange combination of relief and frustration. It sounded crazy, even to her, but every part of her knew it was true. Yes, I know it sounds insane, but I swear to you, something happened. After I sat there, everything changed. It was like something inside me was taking my energy, my light. Everything that made me feel alive is gone. Her father's brow furrowed. Are you sure it wasn't just some bad luck or something else? Maybe stress or something you have been going through. No, Ada whispered, her voice cracking. It's not that. It's real. I can't feel anything anymore. Not the way I used to. She looked at both of them, her eyes pleading for understanding. I am broken and I don't know how to fix it. For a long moment, the room was silent. Her parents exchanged a glance, their concern deepening. Finally, her mother spoke, her voice low but steady. Ada, whatever this is, you are not alone. We'll figure it out together. but we need to believe you. You have to trust us. Ada wanted to believe that, but she felt so disconnected from everything. The walls didn't feel real anymore. How could they fix something that was beyond fixing? I don't know if I can trust anyone anymore, Ada said softly. It's like I'm walking through life in a fog, and no matter how hard I try, I can't get back to where I was. Her father reached over, placing a hand on her shoulder. You will find your way, Ada. We will help you. Even after his comforting words wrapped around her, a small, cold voice inside her mind wondered if they could truly help her, if anyone could. The room was quiet except for the soft hum of the refrigerator and the occasional creak of the house settling. Ada's parents sat across from her, their expressions serious but filled with determination. It had been hours since her emotional outpouring, and now they were discussing what to do next. Ada, though numb and exhausted, listened intently. She needed to believe that something could be done, even if the idea felt distant. Her mother, who had always been the one to hold the family together with quiet strength, spoke first. Ada, I know this doesn't make sense, but we need to start with finding out what happened. We will look into it. There has to be an explanation, something beyond what you are feeling. Ada's gaze faltered. How could they explain something so otherworldly? But she couldn't bring herself to argue. She was too tired, too lost to fight anymore. Her mother's words, though comforting, didn't change the fact that she was haunted by the man's laughter and the emptiness that consumed her every waking moment. Her father, more practical in his approach, cleared his throat. We will start by reaching out to people who might know more about strange things like this. I will talk to an old friend of mine. He is a historian, fused with folklore and old rituals. He might know something. Ada blinked, surprised. She had no idea her father had such connections. The thought of consulting someone who understood the supernatural, someone who might have answers, felt like a thin thread of hope in an otherwise bleak world. We are also going to look into finding a spiritual healer, her mother added, someone who can help clear whatever is clouding your mind. It might not be enough to just talk it out. We might need to do something more practical. Ada's heart clenched. She didn't want to rely on something as intangible as spiritual healing, but deep down, she knew it was probably her only option. Her mind kept replaying the man's words, the loss of her essence, and the strange, ritualistic power that had taken over her. She had no idea how to reverse it, but the thought of trying anything at all, to feel whole again was better than terrifying numbness that had overtaken her. I will do whatever it takes, Ada whispered, more to herself than to them. But what if it's too late? What if I'm too far gone? Her father leaned in, his gaze steadily and reassuring. It's never too late, Ada. We are not giving up on you. You are still our daughter. You can heal, even if it takes time. You just have to trust us and trust the process. Ada nodded, but her heart felt heavy. Trust had become a foreign concept to her. How could she trust in something she couldn't even see? How could she trust in healing when she felt broken? Her mother reached over, squeezing her hand. We will do this together. You are not alone in this, Ada. Not now, not ever. Even though Ada wanted to believe her, the truth weighed on her like a chain, wrapping tighter with every passing second. She had been marked, manipulated and broken. Could anything or anyone fix her? In the days that followed, Ada found herself sinking deep into a silence that couldn't escape. Her parents were doing their best, contacting the historian her father knew and looking for a spiritual healer who might have some answers. But Ada felt distant from it all. The numbness, the haunting emptiness that followed her every moment was unbearable. No matter what they tried, she couldn't shake the feeling that she was beyond help. That's when the thought struck her. Prayer. She had never been a particularly religious person, but in her desperation, she turned to it like a drowning person reaching for a lifeline. At night, when the house was quiet and the shadows grew long, she would kneel by her bed, her hands trembling as she clasped them together. She had no specific word to say, no rituals to follow, but she spoke to whatever she could feel beyond the darkened world that surrounded her. Please, she whispered every night, her voice breaking as she struggled to find strength. Please, help me. I can't carry this anymore. I need peace. I need to feel whole again. Help me, please. At first, there was nothing. The silence felt even more suffocating as her words seemed to vanish into the empty air. But slowly, in the quiet moments between her prayers, something began to shift. It wasn't visible, there was no grand sign or miracles, but there was something subtle, like a faint pulse that began to echo in the depths of her chest. She wasn't sure what it was, but it was enough to make her feel that maybe, just maybe, she wasn't entirely alone. Every day, Ada found herself praying more and more, whether it was in the quiet of her room, in the early hours before the sun rose, or even while sitting at the kitchen table. She prayed. She prayed for guidance. She prayed for clarity. She prayed for strength to fight whatever dark force that had taken hold of her. With each prayer, a small glimmer of hope flickered in her heart, though she still didn't know if it would be enough. Her parents noticed the change. Ada had always been a pragmatic person, so the sight of her kneeling and praying with such intensity was a shock. Her mother would watch her quietly, offering her silent support, but Ada could see the worry in her eyes. They weren't sure if this would work, but they didn't question her. Prayer had become a lifeline, and they would respect it. One evening, after a particularly difficult day, Ada found herself on her knees again, asking for strength when something unexpected happened. As her prayers became very fervent, she felt it, a strange warmth, almost like a presence, surrounding her. Her heart beat faster as she tried to focus, to listen, to understand what it meant. Was it a sign? Or was it just her imagination? In that moment, Ada could have sworn she heard a voice, a whisper so faint, yet so clear. It wasn't an audible voice, but something deep within her, something that made her skin prickle and her breath catch. Deceit has its cost. The words were chilling, so simple, and yet they carried a weight that sent a shiver down her spine. Ada sat there, frozen. Her hands were clasped together as she tried to process what had just happened. Was it the man's voice, or was it something else entirely? Something darker? Her heart raced. She felt a surge of dread, but also something else, a glimmer of understanding. Deceit, the ritual, the power that had taken her. It all made sense now. She wasn't just marked. She was part of something much larger than herself, something that she would have to confront, or else risk losing everything. Ada's thoughts raced as she began to piece everything together. Whatever had been stolen from her, whatever that had been taken by the man, it wasn't just her glory, it was her very soul, and now she had to fight to get it back. The whisper lingered in Ada's mind long after she had finished praying. Deceit has its cost. She couldn't shake the words. They echoed through her thoughts, bouncing between fears and something else, something like a warning. Had she truly heard them, or was her mind playing tricks on her, driven to madness by the horror she had been living through? The days that followed were a blur. Ada continued to pray, even more desperately than ever. Each prayer felt like a battle to reclaim herself, to fight the dark force that had taken root within her. But with each passing day, she grew more certain that the answer lay in confronting what had happened on that bus. The seat, the ritual, the man. They were all part of a puzzle that she needed to solve, or else she would be lost forever. Her parents, though supportive, could only do so much. Her father's friend, the historian, had come through with some information, but it wasn't enough. There were rumors of old practices, the curses tied to specific places, seats on buses, for instance, but nothing concrete. No one could give her the answers she needed. One evening, after another long and silent prayer, Ada decided to act. She couldn't sit idly by waiting for something to change. Her heart was heavy, but she knew that she had to do something. She had to return to the bus. The thought of it terrified her. What if she went back and the darkness grew stronger? But she couldn't ignore the pull. She felt that everything was connected. The seat, the man, the cost, it all came back to this moment. She had to face it, even if it means risking everything. Ada told her parents she was leaving for a while. Her mother tried to argue, but Ada insisted. She had no other choice. The only way she would truly be free was by confronting the source of the torment. When she arrived at the bus stop, the city felt colder than ever. The streets were buzzed with usual noise, but to Ada, everything felt muted, distant, as if she were walking in a world she no longer belonged to. Her heart pounding in her chest as she stood there, waiting. She didn't know what she was hoping for. An answer, a sign, anything that might help her make sense of the madness she had been living through. When the bus arrived, she climbed aboard without hesitation. The familiar scent of the worn seat and the hum of the engine did nothing to calm the unease that had settled in her stomach. She walked down the aisle, and for a moment, everything seemed normal until her eyes fell on the seat. It was the marked seat. At first, it appeared completely ordinary, just another bus seat among many, but as she stood there staring at it, she felt a chill crawl up her spine. This was where it all began. This was where she had unknowingly stepped into the darkness. Ada took a deep breath and slowly sat down. The moment her body made contact with the seat, a wave of cold swept over her. And for the briefest of the moment, she thought she saw a shadow flicker across the aisle. Her pulse quickened, her skin tingling as the unsettling sensation from before returned. Only this time it was stronger, more intense. Something inside her screamed to get up, to leave, but her mind felt heavy. She couldn't move. She was trapped, stuck in the very seat that had stolen everything from her. And then a voice, a low, mocking voice, echoed in her mind. "You came back, didn't you? Now you will understand." Ada's breath caught in her throat. It was him, the man. But where was he? She looked around the bus, but there was no one in sight. Just empty seats, the faint sound of the engine rumbling beneath her, the silence pressed in, suffocating. And then the vision appeared. The shadow that had once been a whisper was now a figure, a tall man with dark eyes that glinted with malice. He was standing by the door, his smile wide and knowing. "You thought you could escape," he said softly, his voice like ice. "But it's too late for that. You are already mine." Ada's heart raced as she tried to stand, to run, but her body wouldn't move. She was paralyzed, trapped in the grip of whatever power she had claimed. "You are nothing," the man continued, his voice now like a growl. "Everything you were, everything you had is mine now. You are empty, and I will make my fortune with what I've stolen from you." Ada's mind spun, the horror of his words crashing over her. He had done this. He had taken everything from her to make himself rich, and now he was going to use her, to manipulate her, to keep her trapped forever. The anger bubbled up inside her, cold and sharp. She couldn't let him win. She couldn't let him take anything anymore. She was more than this. She had to be. With every ounce of strength she had left, Ada fought against the invincible chain that held her. The coldness, the darkness, the fear. She pushed them all away. She focused on one thing that she had left, the prayer. "Please," she whispered through her gritted teeth, "I won't let you take me." And in that moment, something inside her shifted. She could feel it, a warmth, a force pushing back against the darkness. The man's grin faltered as the air around her began to hum. The energy in the bus shifted, swirling like a storm. The bus hummed quietly, its tires pressing against the tarmac as if nothing was amiss. To the other passengers, the ride was as ordinary as any other. The sound of muffled conversations, the clinking of coins, and the soft welling of engine filled the space. No one noticed the eerie tension that thickened the air, nor the flicker of shadows that hovered around Ada as she sat in the marked seat. They were all oblivious to the spiritual battle unfolding before them. Ada's hand trembled in her lap as she focused, as her eyes closing in deep concentration. She whispered the prayer that had kept her alive in this nightmare, the only weapon she had left against the darkness closing in. "Please, please, give me back what's mine," she murmured, her voice soft yet firm, the words tumbling from her lips like a sacred chant. The weight of the curse, the ritual, had been pressing on her for far too long. The man had taken everything, and now she had to take it back. On the outside, the bus continued its route, the world outside moving as it always had. No one saw the shadows creep along the edges of the bus, nor the faint glow of light beginning to shimmer around Ada. To them, she was just another passenger, staring blankly out of the window. But within the spiritual realm, the tension was palpable, the forces of light and darkness colliding in an unseen war. Ada's voice, though barely audible, reached far beyond the bus, as if calling upon some ancient power. The man, the one who had marked the seat with his dark ritual, stood just in front of her, his dark eyes gleaming with malice. "You are nothing but a fool," the man sneered, his voice cold and menacing. "You think you can stop me? You are already mine." But Ada's fear had no room to grow anymore. She clenched her fists, the tremors in her body settling into something else. Resolve, strength, the will to fight. She had spent too long running, too long hiding behind her fear. The man had taken her glory, but he didn't know that he couldn't take her spirit. "I am not yours," Ada whispered, her voice a trembling defiance. "I will fight you. I will fight for what you stole from me." The man's face twisted with disdain. "It's too late. You will never escape me. Your soul is mine." But Ada's words were stronger this time, carrying a power that made the man flinch. The light within her grew brighter, swirling around her like a protective force. The passengers, unaware of the battle, continued to sit, stare and talk amongst themselves, blissfully ignorant of the supernatural war happening right under their noses. No one looked twice at Ada. No one noticed the oppressive air shifting. To them, everything was just normal. "I am not empty," Ada said, her eyes flashing with newfound strength. "And you will never control me again." The man hissed, his form flickering as Ada's prayer filled the air, pushing against him with a force he could not comprehend. She could feel the light building inside her, surging up from deep within, washing over the darkness she has placed on her. She felt something within her begin to shift, a stirring of something powerful, her glory returning, her true self rising to the surface. "No!" the man screamed, his form beginning to flicker as if he were being torn apart by the power she had summoned. "I will not lose." But it was too late. The light she had called upon, the strength of her own spirit, had consumed the man. The dark power he had used to trap her, to take everything from her, shattered in an instant. The man's figure crumbled away, disintegrating into the shadows that evaporated into thin air. Ada's breath came in a raged gasp. As she opened her eyes, she was no longer paralyzed by fear. The seat was hers again, not marked by a curse, but by the strength of her own will, and the glory that had been stolen from her was hers once more. But outside, the world remained unchanged. The bus continued its route, the passengers oblivious to the battle that had raged within its walls. To them, Ada had simply been sitting quietly, just another rider on the bus. Ada stood up, her body light as new, sense of freedom washed over her. As she walked to the door, she cast one last glance around the bus. The passengers still sat, chatting and reading, unaware of the terror and victory that had played out in the air around them. She smiled, feeling the weight of her glory returning to her, her spirit restored. As the doors of the bus opened and Ada stepped off, she took a deep breath, the sunlight warming her face. She had fought for her freedom, and she had won. The darkness was gone, and she was no longer a victim to it. The life that had once felt stolen from her was now hers to reclaim.